Hello, people. I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about context when it comes to sourcing a document for the DBQ. Now, this applies to any DBQ that you're doing, not just the DBQs for the 2020 exam administration. And I'm going to give you an example, not only from a specific DBQ from a previous year, but also a more current event that might help you understand exactly what you're doing when you're discussing a document's context. So first, let's talk about a specific prompt. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you the DBQ prompt from a couple of years back, and then I'm going to look at a document and hopefully walk you through what context for this document is and what it is not. So let's look at this DBQ together, shall we? Okay. This is again from several years ago. It says evaluate the extent to which the Portuguese transformed maritime trade in the Indian Ocean in the 16th century. Now, that is the prompt, and I'm obviously going to discuss when I see evaluate the extent again, just for prompts in general. I'm going to say basically how much or what ways did the Portuguese transform maritime trade in the Indian Ocean during this time period. So if I'm going to be discussing the context of, I don't know, let's just pull up document 2. Document 2 is at a specific point in this 16th century time frame that our prompt is existing in. It says it's written in 1516. That is the earlier part of the century. So if I'm going to discuss the context of this specific document, I can't just talk about trade post empires. I can't just talk about Henry the Navigator in the 1450s, because that's 75 years. No, that's 65 years before this document exists. Your documents are spanning the scope of about 100 years. You can't give the context of an entire century. The context is going to be much more specific to this time frame of 1516 and what is going on, perhaps with this location, perhaps with the Portuguese in general. And so you can't simply use, and this is what I see so often, the broad context of the entire prompt. It has to be the specific context of this document. Okay, so I'm going to give you a more contemporary example that might help you kind of frame context in future documents. Let's take our current circumstances living under a stay-at-home order from the state. Okay, we are living under a so-called quarantine during a pandemic known as COVID-19 or the coronavirus or many other names, whatever. And so let's just say there is a document written by an epidemiologist or somebody who studies diseases, and they are discussing the benefits of wearing a mask in public and how it prevents the spread of disease. Okay, the context of that post that this doctor put out is the quarantine. Okay, if the doctor put the same post during, I don't know, the Paleolithic age, when there's only so many people living on planet Earth, humankind is limited in its population and expanse of the globe and all these things, it may not really have a huge impact on that population, especially because they don't understand English or perhaps know what a mask is outside of perhaps some religious ceremonial uses. And so by writing this post in the time of a quarantine, specifically, that message is going to be received very, very differently because it's written in the quarantine. People on high alert, they're fearful, they don't know what's going to happen, they're very concerned about their health and spreading this pandemic. So they're probably going to listen more, and we need to understand as historians that because it was written in the quarantine time, it's going to have a different impact. Okay. Similarly, one more relevant example is, as I've probably used this, is the context of this video, this lesson, if you will, on how to write context is several weeks right before the AP exam. We're preparing. If I gave this to you when you were in kindergarten, that context wouldn't make any, this context wouldn't make any sense. It's written in the context of a quarantine. That's why it's a video and not a lecture in person. It's written or given right before the AP exam because you're contextually preparing for the AP exam. So all of these things are very specific, though, to this document, this video, or this post from this doctor about wearing a protective mask. You have to get to that level in order to get that cap point. You cannot simply go broad with the whole topic of the prompt. It is not going to get you that cap point. I hope this is helpful. Again, please post questions, comments, like, share the video. I want you to get this, and I think you can. It's going to really pertain to your content knowledge. And if you don't have it specific to this document, try a different letter of the cap. All right, people, more next time. We'll see you later.